The entry road to the Sandy Hook Elementary School remains closed. After many weeks, the investigation continues. The people of Newtown would prefer to be left to grieve in private now. They have had enough of outsiders and enough of journalists. Nevertheless, a group of people from Newtown have agreed to appear in this report. A mother, a boyfriend, the head of the school district, a therapist, and others. They find it difficult to talk, but feel they have no choice if they want to stop this senseless loss of life from becoming just another statistic.
As parents from Sandy Hook started getting the word, you'd see them running up with their phones to their ears and just screaming, "Where's my child? Where's my child?"
I see a line of first responders, ambulance guys and policemen who were there just sobbing. And then I look out and I see cameramen sobbing uncontrollably.
I want other people to know that this could be your child just as easily as it was mine. This could happen to anybody. And it's the saddest thing to deal with.
I started hyperventilating a little because now it was confirmed it was her school, but all I could think was there's no way that she would be involved.
I don't try and feed people, platitudes that everything's going to be okay or you'll get back to normal, because it won't.
Here's one from kindergarten in her little white dress. Still remember going out and buying that.
Teresa's daughter is still present in every corner of her mother's home. Lauren had only just turned 30, a teacher at the very beginning of her career.
And this smile is so typical of Lauren. If I showed you pictures from the time she was 2 years old, she always had this gigantic, happy smile.
Lauren had been a substitute teacher for some time, but December the 14th was her big day.
I was told by one of the other teachers in the receiving line at her funeral that she was very excited that day because she was assigned her own classroom.
She finally had her own class, first grade, in the front of the building. The wrong place at the wrong time.
6-7 Sandy Hook School. Caller's indicating she thinks there's someone shooting in the building.
And I called emergency people and they said, yes, they verified. I just couldn't believe it. And one of them said, don't go over there. Well, I paced for a few minutes and I said, how can I not go over there? Of course I went there. So when I got there, it was like a war zone.
As head of the school district, Janet Robinson began to coordinate the initial response. The situation was chaotic, overwhelming. For a moment, she believed every one of the 600+ students would come out alive.
I had a phone call from the art teacher that she was in the kiln room, locked in with some kids. Some other children showed up at a daycare center. So I'm thinking that, okay, our children got spread out, but we're going to find them.
I was watching the TV, flashed on the screen, 27 dead, and my heart just sank. But still, I was just so full of hope that, she wasn't there.
For the families, it was an intensely traumatic period. With no idea of the situation inside the school, time became the enemy. The longer the wait for your child, the greater the chance of bad news.
Eventually, we got permission that we could release the children to their parents. So the teachers brought them out very orderly in line and had the parents sign out, so we knew that a child was being picked up by their parent. And that was really hard because then we'd run out of kids and there were still parents.
After 13 hours of an agonizing wait, Teresa gets the news. Shooter Adam Lanza had targeted teacher Lauren straight away.
He came into the room. She was the first person who was killed. I'm glad that that was the case. She didn't have to watch the rest of it.
It was in Lauren's class that the gunman took his biggest toll. After the teacher, Lanza went on to murder 14 of the 15 children.
There was one survivor, one little first grader in Lauren's class, and she told the police that Lauren did everything she was supposed to, that the children were lined up under their coat racks on a wall on the side of the room, and she was reading them a story to keep them calm. My thoughts, you know, were just really, how am I going to tell her brothers and how am I going to tell her boyfriend? Because he was here that night.
I felt numb. My whole body, when she told me, it felt like my fingers were going to sleep, and I lost, you know, I felt like I was losing circulation, get little like prickly feelings in your hand.
Lauren's boyfriend Tony says he can still smell her perfume. It seems impossible to him that he will ever fill the gap left that day.
So I've had some times where I wake up and I think she's there, and then all of a sudden it hits me, and that's when I get pretty sad.
I'm just so glad I had her, and rather than looking at my glass half empty, I want to look at it as half full. She had so many more years than the poor little kids in her class, and I just have to thank God that we did.
America's had more than its fair share of mass shootings, but events in Newtown seemed unthinkable. 6 adults killed, and 20 children aged between 6 and 7. How does a community begin to recover from a tragedy like this? How can Newtown find a new meaning, a new future? The shattered town is trying to find ways to heal.
It's weird to say it, but it's kind of a nice feeling that there are other people, that you're not just alone. It's not just one family, there's multiple families, and you know, so it's nice that everyone is there for everyone else. All right.
This is a room that we use for doing play therapy groups. So we're working with some of the children that attended Sandy Hook School and doing a play therapy group here.
Therapist BECK has been working with the children of Newtown. Children who have seen indescribable violence.
It's a lot of movement-based therapy that's just helping kids to work through their trauma. A lot of trauma really resides within the body. There's more and more research finding that. And so sitting around and just talking about it many times isn't as helpful. When I got the call to go there, I heard about the extent of what had occurred. And when you heard about the full extent that, 20 children were shot and killed. I remember physically feeling nauseous because of just everything that I heard.
How do you heal a whole town? It's not only the families that need help, but friends, neighbors, and first responders who worked on the scene.
What makes it so awful is not only the images also, but that sense of that you can't help that you can't do anything for it, and that loss of control and that helplessness and the anxiety that can go with that. And I think with time and therapy that can get better, definitely.
It's estimated that approximately 500,000 pieces of mail have been received by the town, up to date, and it's still coming in and still being sorted.
Newtown has been touched by an outpouring of support. In the City Hall, Dan CRUSON has a full-time job sorting out all the incoming mail.
For example, the Sandy Hook Elementary School, obviously done by a school child herself. Love never dies, beautiful memories stay forever. And this was in with a group of others that had also been sent to us. I would love to see it all preserved and kept and warehoused. The fact of the matter, however, is that it's just an overwhelming, completely overwhelming, and I mean that in every sense of the word, overwhelming task to try to do that. And we recognize the impossibility in terms of we just don't have the space in town where this stuff could be stored. We're borrowing warehouse space now to be able to do this, but that can't go on forever, obviously.
What you see here are boxes and boxes of cards and letters, artwork, Valentines that have been sent to us, all in memory of our Sandy Hook victims.
Most of the mail is addressed to the school, so it ends up on Janet Robinson's desk. Amongst the messages are offers of support from other schools that have experienced similar calamities.
We have things signed from Virginia Tech. Last week, some Columbine teachers met with our Sandy Hook teachers Friday and Saturday, and it was a really cathartic for our teachers to have an opportunity to talk to the Columbine teachers and to realize that life does go on.
Even though the town is still grieving, the people of Newtown realize that they are able to take the next step. The whole nation is still in shock. If the United States can ever change, now is the time.
These children should be the impetus for positive change. They should be remembered for having something positive happen. But I don't want these little kids to have died in vain.
I think if we can be the place that the change started, that will help our grief.
Accepting on behalf of Lauren Rousseau, her parents, Terry and Jal Rousseau.
Last week, TERESA received the second highest civilian award in the country.
I think anytime I'm in a large group of people and the subject comes up and it's all about what actually happened, it just hits home and it's very emotional.
This is TERESA's moment, and America is listening. With the families of some of the other victims, she has joined an organization called the Sandy Hook Promise.
I think guns are now the thing that we need to really focus on. The amount of guns that Americans own is absolutely ridiculous.
The promise is a really simple pledge. It is, I promise to do everything in my power to make sure we do not have another Sandy Hook event in this country.
The Sandy Hook Promise already has an office and plenty of volunteers, all hoping America will change after Newtown. A country with less weapons and tougher gun laws.
People need to know that this was a point in time where America, the most evolved, civilized society on the planet, actually lived up to that moniker. It's the moment when America actually became more evolved, and it treated its people in a way that was more civilized than it had in the past. The high watermark in gun violence was Newtown in December 2012.
It has been 2 months since Newtown. I know this is not the first time this country has debated how to reduce gun violence. But this time is different.
Newtown has become a political symbol. Obama placed family members of the shooting victims in the audience of his State of the Union speech, and politicians wore the green ribbons of the Sandy Hook Promise.
In the short term, I think that we should stop manufacturing military assault weapons for civilian use. I think that, it just should be a ban, immediate, with no exceptions. And I think the possession of these guns should be made a felony.
There's a good deal of support especially from families here in Newtown, for banning assault weapons and the high capacity clips of ammunition.
For most, the idea of banning guns altogether is a step too far. Even for the majority in Newtown, the Second Amendment is not up for debate.
America loves its guns. America has a love affair with guns.
Should things change in America?
They should change a little, but they never will.
No.
No. The guns are too ingrained.
I think a piece of that is owning a gun sometimes, that sense of I'm independent, I'm self-reliant, I can defend myself, I can defend my family. And I think that's part of the male psyche of America.
Gun control does not equal taking away your gun rights.
Heather Smith illustrates how complex the gun control debate has become. She has joined the Promise and wants tougher gun laws, but also maintains that guns are not the problem.
Do you have guns at your home?
No, but I am in the process of getting one, my first one actually.
Why?
Well, that's funny that this should come up, but I have done a lot of thinking. What am I going to do if someone comes into my home? How am I going to protect my children? Am I going to throw my purse at them?
TERESA has a hard time dealing with such arguments. She wants big change. But the more that people talk about gun control, the more guns are sold.
I think the saddest thing for me in the weeks after Lauren died was to go over to the memorials that were in town, and you're looking at this outpouring of love. And then I'd come home and read in the paper that people had just run out and bought like X number of guns that day. That was really, really heart-wrenching for me.
The people from Newtown never asked for all this attention. They have been unwillingly cast in this position, but now they're here. They want America to listen to their message. There should never be another Newtown.
You know, throughout my career, I have had children in my schools who've been killed accidentally by other children finding daddy's gun. You know, I've been to too many funerals for young children.
Lauren had 2 cousins who have served in the Army in Iraq, and they came home unharmed. And Lauren went to teach first graders in a school in a very affluent, educated community, and lost her life. And it's the saddest thing to deal with. You know, these people who think, I've got a gun, my kids will be fine. It just doesn't work that way.